I'm going to start. So, welcome. And today we're going to talk about the voice inside your head. Now, it might seem weird what I'm going to tell you if I tell you that this voice is not really your voice, it's a voice. And if you just take a step back and you observe or you look at the conversation, you'll actually see that the voice is conversating by itself. It's asking the questions and it's answering. It takes both sides of the conversation. And it has interesting things to say and it has some things that are not so interesting, but whatever, it's still disturbing. So let me give you this example. You're driving your car, you remember you had to call a friend, you're driving your car, and then you get busy, something happens, then you get to the office or you get home, you get busy, you remember you have to call your friend, and you still don't call your friend because you got busy. And the moment you're going to sleep, that voice comes up and it's like, should have called my friend. And then you start having this conversation with you where you don't really sleep because you're like, I should have called her, I should have done this at this time. And yeah, but I had this during the day and now it's too late for me to call. And maybe I'll call tomorrow morning. And what is ending up at the end is that this voice is really annoying. It's disturbing your sleep. So it's important to take a step back and to just observe it. Observe what it has to say, and you realize that most of the time, this voice is not actually you. This voice are maybe some people who were part of your life at a certain time. It might have been your parents, your teacher, a friend, and the voice just comes up and it's like, you can't do that. You plan to do something and it's like, yeah, but what if you fail? And that's the belief of I am going to fail, and that's not really your belief. It's a belief that was put there. So it's a mechanism, basically, that can make us believe whatever it wants us to believe. And it seems weird, but if you take your time and you just sit there and just notice one thing, that voice is the sum of all your experiences. That sum is all the beliefs that people have told you, and that sum is you, and that voice, sorry, as well sums up the ego inside of you. So I'd like you guys to just do a little exercise right now, and then after the exercise, if you want, you can unmute and tell us a bit about the experience. So I just want you to sit there, and in your head, I just want you to scream, and then whisper. And you realize that you're the only person who can hear that. No one else can hear it. So when I'm saying that that voice is not you, it's not you as in you. It's the sum of all of that. So does anybody want to share the exercise? Do you want to share what was your experience, what you have lived during this exercise? Okay.
I'm good from my part.
Huh?
I'm good from my part.
Okay, great. So basically, so you can see that, you're the only one that heard that voice, that heard that screaming, or that heard that whisper. And it's kind of hard to understand that this voice is just a voice. And you're the one who's listening to the voice, you're the one being influenced by the voice, and you're the one who's being dragged by this voice. So that's why I decided to call it Discover the Voice Inside Your Head, right? Because here we're right now discovering what is this voice? Where is this voice coming from? What is this voice saying? What is the role of this voice? These are the things that we will be covering today in the session. Okay, so you're the one who is hearing it. And it might not feel that that's the case. You might appropriate that voice as yours, but it's not really yours. Because it's not really you, and it's very hard to grasp. And I'm really insisting on the fact that it's not really you, because you will see later on, why am I saying that? The best way to deal with this voice is actually to observe it. Observe what the voice is saying, but do not engage with it. Do not respond to that voice. When we observe the voice, it's like it helps us realize certain things, certain beliefs. It makes us realize even in what state of mind we're in, because sometimes it's super, super active. And at other times it might be a bit calmer. We need to understand that this is the role that we actually gave this voice. We gave it the role to talk, and we asked from it to talk, because sometimes that voice will soothe us. Usually when that voice comes out, it comes out when there is like this burst of energy, or emotions, and these emotions are like fear, or even happiness, or worry, or anxiety, or you're nervous. So I'll give you an example. You're walking down the streets in the UK, or in Dubai, or in Paris. You're walking down a new street, and this voice starts telling you, oh, look, a door. Oh, look, stairs. Oh, look, a pole. And that voice is actually talking to you, because what it's doing, it's actually making sense of the world, the outside world, and you're internalizing the outside world that way. But then what happens with that is that you are internalizing the outside world from your perception, from the way that you see the outside world, or from the way that voice is seeing the outside world. If you perceive the world as scary, the outside world as scary, then you're going to internalize it that way. This voice will talk and will try to make sense, to give you that sense of safety. But in fact, what it's doing, it's giving you this blind spot. It's not showing you the reality as is. It's showing you a partial part of the reality, which is very personal to yourself, very internalized. And this is why at a lot of times a situation would be going on, and then we perceive it from our point of view of reality, but it's not reality itself. So when sometimes we tell you reality is an illusion, it's not as in the reality is an illusion, or the world around us is an illusion, but in the sense that our reality is an illusion, because it's our internalization of the external world, which is not, in fact, the reality of the outside world. So the problem is that there's a lot of noise in our head that is going on. And the problem is not life, but it's the noise that comes from our head, you know. And the problem, in fact, it's what's going on. And sometimes you'll hear it, and especially like people who would like to meditate or something like that, they will tell them, quiet the monkey brain. This is actually the monkey brain. When we meditate, it's not about, you know, clearing the mind totally 100%, well, one type of meditation. Or when we do mindfulness, it's actually about not engaging and observing, and not going into that spiraling with that voice, that constant spiraling with the voice. So a question that we can ask ourselves is, why is the voice saying all of these things? And why is it saying them to us? It may seem that it's saying something that is important, but actually what it's saying most of the time, it's not important and it's senseless. So now, why do we hear that voice? And as I was saying earlier, it talks when there's that buildup of energy. And then energy needs to go somewhere. So again, another thing is like, for example, when you're mad or you're angry at someone, and you're going to go and meet that person, what actually happens is that even before meeting that person, you're already built up with anger, right? And even before meeting up that person, the anger is there, you're engaging with that emotion, and then the thoughts are coming, and then you say, I'm going to say this, and then he's going to say that, and I'm going to respond this, and you start having all this conversation, and basically what you're doing, you're just observing that voice. And it's a voice who's doing all the talk by itself. And you would realize most of the time, or even, for example, a breakup, right? You're going to go and meet the ex-partner, and you already have all that scenario and all that conversation in your head, and you're all worked up by all the emotions and everything that is coming along. Most of the time, the situation doesn't happen the way you expect it to happen, or they just don't ask the questions that you expected for them to ask, you know. So this is why I say take a step back and just observe the thought. What is it trying to reveal? What is it trying to say? But do not engage with it. And I think that's kind of a tricky part, right? So what is this voice telling me? I understand that this voice is not me, but then at the same time, what is it trying to say? And who is this voice? My ego? Is it my mother? Is it my father? Is it one of my teachers? Who is this voice? And when I'm able by observation to realize that this voice is not me and I'm not engaging with this voice, this is where things calm down. And this is where I'm able to kind of like dissociate from that voice and everything that that voice has to tell me. And I don't get affected anymore by everything that it's saying or everything that it's talking about. Now, as well, the tricky part is that it gives us the sense of security, the sense of safety. The dude loves to talk. We gave him that role to talk, and the dude just loves to talk. But as we are internalizing the external world, you know, it kind of makes us feel comfortable. It makes us feel in control because we relate, we label, we judge, and we make sense of what is around us. This voice kind of like tries to make sense of everything that is around us. So while we're internalizing the outside world, we're bringing that experience into the realm of our thoughts. Now, what happens is that it has like this ripple effect, if you may, or if it has like this, it's like a kind of like a circle, because this experience that I was living right now and that I internalized and I made it part of the realm of my thoughts and I made it part of the realm of my experiences. Next time I'm going to experience something similar, there's all this chatter that have been happening in this experience that's going to happen again in the next experience. So this is the voices, if you want, that I'm bringing along with me into this experience. So it becomes part of our thinking process, of our thoughts, our experiences, and then it becomes part of our value system. Now, there's a very big difference between the outside world and the inner world. Our inner world is composed of the inner child, the adolescent, the adult, the if we're married, the married person, the single. This is what our inner world is made out of, and then we're bringing the external world into this internal world. We're bringing all this past, we're bringing it in with us into this world and into this moment, and that's when the voice keeps on talking and talking and talking and doesn't stop talking. And the illusion again is that the world around us, and I will be doing another talk on the illusion of the world around us, but it's that illusion that my reality today during this session and the way my mind is talking right now, if I can just tell you how the voice, it's like not stopping, okay? But I'm not engaging with it. I'm not allowing it to tell me, oh yeah, you know what, this is your first webinar. Yeah, do you think that you're doing a great job? It is telling me all of these things, but I'm not engaging with it. So some people, for example, have social anxiety or, you know, they fear public speaking. It's because before even doing the act, that voice is starting to talk. Yeah, you can't do it. It's so scary. Look how many people are out there. And they engage with that thought. So what I was trying to say is that the world around us is an illusion. And my experience of the world today is different than your experience of the world today. How you experience this webinar or this talk that we're having is different than the way I'm experiencing it, because I am the person who is, you know, talking and initiating it, and my experience is this is my first one. And for you guys, it's like maybe as well the difference is like, oh, it's the first time that we're hearing her, or it's the first time I'm doing something like this. So the way that we're each going to label and process this event is different from one another. And this is where the reality, our reality, my reality is an illusion because it's my reality. And that voice comes and starts labeling whatever has happened and categorizing and trying to make sense so I can internalize it and make sense of it inside. Knowing that my perceptions are my personal perceptions and they always leave space to a blind spot, because at the end I only pay attention to what interests me. Right now they can be maybe, I don't know, a cat walking or something walking, and I'm not going to see it because this is not something that interests me, right? The voice is not going to tell me, oh, listen, there's a cat behind you. It might tell me, why is that lamp behind me turned off? Because this is something that you know, that brings my attention to it, something that interests me. So When we internalize the outside world, it actually settles in our mind, and this is how we manipulate it and we create it through our thoughts, and our thoughts express themselves through the voice. So the outside world becomes in control in our inner world. The thoughts of the outside worlds are equal to all of the thoughts and the beliefs and all these intermixed and influenced experiences that we have had all our lives from the outside world. We are the sum of all of that. And the voice, what it's actually doing, it's just like regurgitating. It's just like, throwing things out there. In a new environment, it's going to try to associate it with an old environment. And then you will realize sometimes how simple the voice is. You go outside, for example, if you live in Europe and it's kind of cold, you go outside and it tells you something that's so obvious. Oh my God, it's cold. And then after, what we tell ourselves is like, yeah, okay, but soon I'll get to the coffee shop or I'll get home and I'll be warm again. And I soothe myself. That is how I actually, something that's happening from the inside out external environment, I'm internalizing it and then I'm soothing myself in that situation because I'm being bothered by the cold. But it's actually just stating the obvious. It's not revealing any secret or anything. It will only do that when we actually sit down and we observe it and we don't engage with it. When we're in that response and not in that reacting. So we manage to control our experience of this reality because we make it fit in our minds. So how we experience or witness consciously our mental model of the reality is not the reality itself. This is what I'm trying to say. It's not reality itself. It's how we perceive reality. And the voice is basically the thing that is talking. It's narrating whatever is going around from a biased point of view, not from an objective point of view. Because you recreate the world outside, inside you internalize it. The outside world becomes better in control. Because whatever you can control and you can control in your mind, whereas on the other hand, the real world is something that you cannot control. And that is why mentally you talk about it. It's soothing. It gives you a sense of empowerment. And again, I'll give you another example, that sense of empowerment again, for example, when it's hot, right? Oh, in a couple of minutes, I'm going to be in the AC. Feel better, that sense of empowerment that you're getting. So it makes the current experiences fit our overall view of past visions, the past, the future. It helps us to, create a belief or semblance of control. And if we don't do this, it's very uncomfortable for us. So the voice tempers with our minds because reality is too real for most of us. And this is how we appropriate it, through the voice. So the reason the voice talks all the time, it's because we gave it that job. It makes sense of the world around us. It's kind of like a mechanism. It's a protection mechanism or a defense mechanism to make us feel safe and to make us feel more secured. So if we want to kind of like sum what is the role of this voice, it's not an enemy. It's again, and something that I say very often, befriend like your emotions, but befriend that voice, but do not engage with that voice. Understand that this is not you. You are not the voice. Whatever you have that is important to express or to say, you use your voice, your real voice. You speak it aloud. So if that is what you want, and you have always been obliged or forced to constantly use your mind to buffer yourself from life instead of living it, this is what we call. I know that what I just said right now didn't really make sense, but I'm going to explain it. So basically, it's like if we continuously force ourselves and oblige ourselves to make sense of the world around us, we are actually going to buffer the world around us. So like that, we can live, instead of living life itself, instead of being observers of life, instead of looking at what is going on around us and without appropriating it to ourselves. You know, for example, when something happens, life is made of up and down. And this is another subject that we have, which is the trap of happiness. When I understand what happiness really is, and that it's not pleasure, it's because I'm in the observer position and I'm observing life and I'm accepting it. And if I take that same position of observing the voice inside of my head and not engaging with the voice inside of my head, and maybe creating that dissociation between you and that voice is not me. It's not who I am today who is talking. It's might have been you 3 years ago, but it's not you today. So that's why I say that voice is not you. That voice might have been an experience that you had more than 20 years ago, but you're not the person you were 20 years ago. And this is how we keep that cycle going and going and going and going. And as well, when we try to make sense of the world, the external world around us, and we internalize it, we're bringing it in, we're being reactive, we're not being in the response position, taking that response where it's like, okay, I'm going to observe whatever is going on, I'm going to be in acceptance with whatever is going on, and I don't need to control the world around me, because I don't need to externalize or to bring that world inside. Now you're going to tell me, okay, but then how are you living life? You are actually experiencing life and everything that life has to offer with you, but you're not carrying it inside of you, if that makes sense. So by disengaging with this voice and just observing it, it's not easy to practice. It's very hard, but the more you try to practice, the more you try to reach there, the more it will become easier. So I would tell you to do this, like, a couple of minutes during the day. Whenever you hear that monkey brain, just sit there and observe it and see where it wants to go, and just see what it's trying to tell you, or how is it making you feel emotionally. When you observe your thoughts and you don't engage with them and you don't spiral with them, this is where you're freeing yourself. You're freeing yourself from your limitations. You're freeing yourself from your beliefs, from any negative thoughts, and from so many other things. There's this famous writer called Michael Singer. He actually says, being aware and watching the voice is to stand at the doorstep of a fantastic inner journey. So when we're able to take that step backward and to observe this voice, this is where we awaken. We become conscious of all what the voice is trying to say, or what that voice represents. But in the same time, we become more self-aware. And by being more self-aware, this is where we reach to a spiritual awakening, or to the awakening of the self, if we don't want to use the spiritual awakening, depending on each person meaning what is spiritual. But it's when we have more self-awareness. So when you use the voice properly, the same voice that has been the source of all the worry, the anxiety, the negative comments, the negative emotions, negative experiences, then you can start going into becoming more self-aware. When you use it properly, you can use it to awaken yourself from this false reality that you have created for yourself, and go and step maybe into the reality, or as close as you can to that reality. There's another quote that Michael Singer used, and he says, "Come to know the one who is watching the voice, and you will come to know one of the greatest mysteries of creation." So observing the voice and not engaging with it as well, it helps you discover really who you are as a person. What are your belief systems? And we know that most of the time our beliefs are actually what stops us from moving forward in life. Our beliefs will not allow us to live life fully, to its fullest potential. And all this is constantly translated by this voice that doesn't shut up, keeps on talking. So I'm open for any questions and answers. The question answers. I'm the one giving the answers. Any question you guys have before we end this? Anyone? Was it clear?
Yeah, so from my part, I would ask like, okay, do not engage with this voice, but then like if you want to go on like for example, walking mindfully and observing, so like you poke that voice to walk mindfully, for example, and to observe things around you. You get what I mean? Like how to differentiate between both.
Yeah. Okay. So when you're actually doing a mindful walk, the whole purpose of walking is to be present in the moment, right? So I'm going down the streets, I'm feeling the sole of my foot, how it's on the floor. I'm feeling the air. I'm hearing the birds. But what I'm doing is I'm not engaging. I'm just observing.
Okay.
So
Yeah,
that
I think
do exactly the mindful walking. When you do a mindful walk, it's exactly the same thing. Be a mindful listener where you're just observing, you're not engaging with that voice. You don't appropriate that voice as it being yours.
okay.
Thanks for the
Thank
question. I answered. Anyone else? Okay, girls. So I really want to thank you very, very, very much for being present for my first, I don't know how to call it, webinar, live, whatever. So thank you so much. I hope that I was able to give you a tool or something that you could use in your daily life just to soothe a bit, and that you understand better what is this voice and where is this voice coming from. And just a reminder, I'll be doing this, and sometimes I'll be doing lives instead of this on Facebook, and I'll be doing this every Tuesday at the same time. So sometimes it will be half an hour, sometimes it will be 45 minutes. It depends. Sometimes it's more engaging. I do encourage you very much to, whenever you come next time, to participate, to ask questions, even when I'm in the middle of explaining or whatever, making it more interactive. So I'd like to thank you girls very, very much. Have a great evening, and yeah, see you soon.
Perfect. Thanks Hala a lot for this session.
Bye.